Welcome to I Am an Asset podcast. I'm your host, Brianne Smith.
And I'm your other host, Zachary Wilson.
And today we're going to be covering the topic of leadership. We're going to talk about how this applies to Zachary and his current application process that he just started. And how does this apply to personal capital? And then we're going to talk about, how do you become a good leader?
So let's go ahead and start with how it applies to my life and high school generally, and maybe even why it applies to the college, especially the application process and scholarships, like we've been talking about. So first I'll talk about the college part, because today and yesterday I've been working on my application, and it's been very scary and stressful, but we're getting through it. And one of the main parts is about leadership. That's one of the main parts of this specific application, but I'm sure many, if not all, applications have some form asking about what leadership organizations you're a part of, and asks you how many hours and what you do. And since that's integral in every college application, I wanted to talk about maybe why do you think colleges are looking for leadership in students? Why do you think that is?
I think leadership is an important quality for young people to have as they're transitioning from high school under the responsibility of their parents, and they're growing up and becoming adults and then going out into the world and, starting their own families and their own businesses and working, their own jobs. And I think leadership is a good quality that a university or a college institution would want to see in a student, because that's an extra thing to go on an application other than just a number in a GPA or a number of classes that have been taken. Leadership is something that says a little bit more about the work ethic of a student or a potential student. And when you're looking at two applications and they both got the same GPA and one has some other aspects that, qualities like leadership, then they have to choose between the two. I mean, the leader would be transfer probably into leadership in the classroom, group projects, leadership on campus. The whole campus life is great to have student leaders involved. So I think it's a good quality to have in transitioning to adulthood as well.
I definitely agree. A lot of the career choices you make, and like family life, and many of the ventures you could have in life require taking initiative and organization. And we're going to be talking more about the qualities of a leader later, but those are just to name a few. And that's what leadership is doing those things, and standing out and taking lead. So now we'll talk a little bit about how I experience what the leadership process is like in high school. So I can especially relate to, as a junior and especially a senior going into my senior year, that leadership is definitely now the time. You see, you can have juniors, maybe even sophomores. Anybody can be a leader in their own aspect. But when you get to the oldest age, because typically we regard leaders with old age in some areas, I think the elderly status can be a leader. I don't know how to phrase this. I need an example.
An example of a leader, or
of why we typically attribute leadership to the oldest member of whatever party.
I think it's really because we see older groups as having more experience and more stories, and how they did things, and more experiences, lived more life. And I think we could get into a whole conversation about mentorship at some point. Because it is good to have people in your life who have gone ahead of you, who've had experiences that you're trying to have.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why when you're a senior in high school, it's like that's the time when you have the opportunity to be a leader in whatever field or organization, school clubs and stuff like that, sports you like to do, captains, presidents of clubs and stuff like that.
Can we talk about one in particular that you get to be that's kind of assigned to you tomorrow that I think your school does that's really cool? That's like a leadership is your
Well, that's also, I'd say that's even a mentorship.
yeah.
So our school does this program where we have these K-5 buddies, kindergarten buddies, and they pair each one of these kindergarten children with one or even two, depending on, because we have a lot of people in our grade, to a senior buddy. And I'd say it's like a mentorship because, you know, we get to see them throughout the year, and especially when we're doing events for the school and stuff like that. And it's like a tradition in our school, and I like it because it's kind of a sign of growth, because there was a day when I had a senior buddy, or I had a fifth grade buddy. They've changed it around, but it's the same concept. And then now, you know, I'm the one filling that position, and it just shows like the tradition and the time we hold at our school. I really like that. And I get to be introduced to who mine will be. My child tomorrow.
Your child.
Do I get to pick? No. But,
yeah. And it's a really big deal to the young ones to have you, because I remember you know, you'll see them in the hallway and high five them, and it's a really good program.
They're always so happy.
But that's one opportunity you have that I think is pretty unique.
There was just to give an example of this, since we're talking about it, we had what I was talking about a minute ago. We had fifth grade buddies, and I remember mine. And when I was in fifth grade, I had a kindergarten buddy as well.
Yeah.
That they changed it up. I think they do the seniors now. But at my time, I had a kindergarten buddy. And now that I'm a senior, I'm going into my senior year. My kindergarten buddy is just reached middle school. I saw it on a post. And I don't even think he remembers who I am.
I'm sure.
But I was like, wow. It's been
you getting old,
like
Zachary.
5 or 6 years. And it felt like yesterday.
That's funny.
But yeah.
Can we talk about yesterday and how we came up with this leadership topic? Because you are starting the application process, and you said you were stressed about it. And I think coming up with, you know, all of the things you've done over the years is kind of what's been stressful about it. And
definitely.
The topic of leadership came up because that's a common question on an application for college is where have you served as a leader? So can you talk a little bit about what you're putting on your application, or how you've documented what you've been doing or keeping track of it, and how, you know, how that applies to your application?
I will. I'll go ahead and say this is a great point to transition into how the leadership quality can be a personal capital asset to your life, because definitely during the time of the application process is a review of all your personal capital assets. And with the specific leadership one in mind, I had to dive into areas of my life which may not have been given the title of leader or president, but where I definitely mentored and set an example for and encouraged others to grow to their fullest potential. And I really exhibited leadership qualities, even though it might not be, there might not be a title for it. And I think the kind of an outside principle is you don't necessarily have to change your demeanor, your leadership qualities if you're not necessarily getting a trophy for it. I think it's just a great quality to always have as yourself, is to just don't throw that away just because you're not getting something out of it. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
What was the other question about?
Like what did you put in your application? Like what kind of, because we had a little bit of a back and forth yesterday about what leadership roles you could put in this box.
I put that I was definitely a leader when it came to my soccer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I I started playing soccer in the 8th grade, for my school at least. I've been playing soccer all my life.
That's what I was about to say.
For my school, I started playing in the 8th grade, and I didn't make it in the 7th grade. And I think it was just because of my conditioning, or because there were so many people trying out that year. But so instead, we signed me up for a club team so I could still play soccer that year. It just wouldn't be in the spring, it would be in the fall. So I had to wait, and then the fall came, and then I got better. And eventually the next year I made it in my 8th grade year.
Mm-hmm.
And let me find how this relates to what I'm talking about, how we're talking about today. I fell in love with fall soccer, club soccer, travel soccer, even though that wasn't what I originally intended to do. I originally just intended to play school soccer, but I began playing soccer year round from that point, and I became very good, and I still am. And I know I experienced, because I play two seasons out of the year, you could say I got double the experience of like what a good team looks like. And I've experienced a lot of leaders from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a lot of, how a good leader can change a team positively. And I knew probably going into high school that's a position I wanted to fill one day. And I'd say last year I definitely did that. And this year I'm especially doing that because, again, it's my senior year and this is the height of my soccer career. Because I don't plan on playing soccer in college. For the college, at least, I might play intramural.
What other leadership roles did you put on your application?
I put something about the ESL organization I was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
I did teach an ESL class with someone else, and the reason I put that is as a leadership position as a teacher not only has to find the right outline for the curriculum, find the stuff that they want to teach the class, but I've noticed especially high school teachers with rambunctious high schoolers and middle schoolers has to have kind of a voice of authority and control over the class. Mm-hmm. But I've experienced teachers that are too controlling. I've experienced teachers that are not controlling enough. Mm-hmm. And both, are, you have to find a balance in order for it to work. And so a teacher with I was lucky because I was obviously working with people who are not obviously, but I was working with people who were adults.
And they really want to learn.
They wanted, they were there to learn English. There's a difference when it comes to high schoolers who don't want to learn and who aren't adults and are not mature. But there was still the aspect of, because everyone's looking to you for what's next when you're a teacher. Mm-hmm. Once you're done with an assignment, it's like, well, now what do we learn? And there's a large responsibility that I felt that, these people are spending all their time with me and I want to give them something out of it and I want to make them better. And that responsibility, that definitely attributes to being a leader.
Mm-hmm. What else did you put on there? I know you had 4 or 5 things we went back and forth about as far as leadership roles that you've had over the years. The trouble with this particular question on this application asked for the last 3 years. So mm-hmm. I think you and I were kind of...
That's what I was trying to say. I was there our first or second episode. I was talking about just start now, your resume. Mm-hmm. No matter how old you are, just start now because you're going to forget it when an application asks you, what happened 3 years ago? And you're like, I don't know.
You did all the things, and then it is really hard to remember that mm-hmm. you led a particular class or a particular service project, I would say is even a leadership role.
You were asking me what I did. Mm-hmm. I guess another area, I was an ESL tutor, but that is the same. It's just for an individual. And then I also led some boys' Bible study groups. And I was also a babysitter. I did not put the babysitter one on there, but that definitely is leadership and authority.
Definitely. Trying to
And
keep people alive is definitely leading.
maintaining the peace. The middle school boys Bible study, that one is, I mean, to me, you know, as Christians, we definitely hold a responsibility with our fellow Christians when it comes to being accountable for them, but also showing a good example for the younger people
and helping them grow.
To me it's very I care about it very deeply because, you know, I remember looking up to older people that were older than me that were, you know, leading groups like that, and I remember they had a large impact on what I thought and how I acted. And so I'm going to be doing 2 more roles like that at the same time this upcoming year, or the rest of this year. And that responsibility and that leadership position is definitely weighs heavy on my heart because I know there's a lot. I'm looking for the right word.
There's a lot of responsibility you put on yourself because you feel like you're having an impact on someone else's life, and you want it to be a positive impact.
I feel like everything I do or say is going to be absorbed
like a sponge.
Yeah, if I say the wrong thing, you know. But that's just what comes with being a leader. And as far as the personal capital is concerned, let's go ahead and because what we've been talking about a lot here is how to improve your personal capital. So in this regard, how might one improve their personal capital? Or as we transition to our next point, how might one learn to be a leader?
I think that's a really good question. Leadership is very important for personal capital aspect because, you know, as we've discussed the definition of personal capital, it is the experience, education, skills, personality, character that you have as a person that allows you to generate resources either through a job or some kind of skill or hobby that you might have. And in order to improve your personal capital, leadership is a great way to do that because as you have the characteristics of a leader, you can grow in an organization, be in a leadership role in an organization. And if you have leadership qualities, you might even own this organization. So personal capital is definitely a place that you can improve your personal capital. And I think that how you gain leadership is to just start small. It doesn't have to be, I mean, what I mentioned to you yesterday was leadership doesn't mean you have to be the captain of the soccer team or the SGA president. I mean, those are not the only options. And so leading a small group at church is a great option. Doing a one-on-one mentorship of someone who might need it, who is younger than you, is a great option. Just starting somewhere to take on the responsibility of even a project at school, being the group leader of a project is a great way to lead, learn how to lead.
And we can go even deeper by talking, if you're looking to be a leader, we could, let's talk about what qualities you might want to encompass and like, not only qualities, but like behaviors, which I guess could be one and the same. I would say the first one is taking initiative. Because no matter how you're leading, I feel like there's always a point where you have to speak up and you have to make your voice heard over other people's, whether that be louder than theirs, figuratively, or before theirs. And so you have to take action and you can't sit by. If you notice there's a time, I think I'm a natural born leader because I'm a problem solver. When I see other people have a problem, I love to help. I want to fix it. And I have the abilities to fix it. And so I speak up because I can't watch other people suffer if I have a solution. And so taking initiative is like speaking out. If you have, you know, a solution to something, or if you know a better way that an organization can be led, you need to make your voice heard. And other people will acknowledge that. And eventually, based off of your disposition they'll eventually start to follow you.
And I'm going to push back on that just a little bit,
Okay.
because maybe from your perspective of how to become and grow as a leader, you're talking about maybe coming from a role of not leading to becoming seen as a leader and speaking up more. And I see that, just being involved more openly in a project and putting in your 2 cents and your thoughts is a good way to be seen and become as a leader. But I would say a great leader doesn't in a room, someone who is a great leader isn't necessarily doing all the talking. And sometimes, or a lot of time, being a great leader does the least amount of talking and a lot more listening and taking action in the right ways. And so, for example, here, being a leader of a team of employees that's all work together, if I just sat in the front of the room all the time and I did all of the talking, that's actually not that great. And it's really not great to be part of an organization like that. So I think part of the characteristics of a great leader is being open to collaborating, having creating a space where people feel like what you just said, where they can speak up and say what they think is a good idea. And leadership is not dictatorship. Like, I'm not leading this organization and only my ideas matter. And I think it's a great leader is open to receiving ideas from all and then sifting through those and help taking action in the right way.
I think that's a really great point, and I'm gonna give an example of that. I could give multiple examples. In the Bible, it talks about surrounding yourself with smart people and individuals, people who will help you in that way. And in history, there's Charlemagne, I believe. He surrounded himself with trusted advisors and very intelligent counsel. And that's a principle that could be applied to, you don't have to be a king to do that. A lot of kings throughout history have just been dictators that were, final word. And, you see what happens throughout history with that. But, because it's true. Yeah, as a leader, you're not going to have all the information, and you're not going to be able to always find the best solution to a problem. And that's a good point. Funny enough, you should say that, is when I was talking to my coach about leading an FCA for our team. It's a fellow Christian athletes organization where we do Bible studies and stuff for my team. He said, is there anyone else you want to do it with? And that struck me, that made me think, because I remember I didn't see much of the last person I was working with doing that. But I think that now I'm seeing why he wanted me to do that, because, you don't have all the answers and you shouldn't have to do it alone.
Yeah. I actually taught a Bible study with my best friend years ago. It was a Sunday school class, actually. And I did it with Davetta. And at first I started teaching that class on my own. And then she said, "Hey, I'd love to do that with you." And I thought that might be difficult to coordinate lesson plans and everything with another person, but it has actually made it a lot better, because it's always great to have other perspectives when you're leading people, and to co-lead something is also a great way to learn how to become a leader and get good leadership qualities, because you can play off each other and learn together and grow together as being leaders. And so I think that was a good experience, and this will be a good experience for you.
That is, yeah, I hope it is. And, that same thing you were saying just now is applying right now in this studio. I mean, I want to help our viewers the best ways I can, but there are some points about topics we're talking about where I can't give everything I know, and having another person who also has lots of experience to provide another perspective is much more effective in communicating a topic we're talking about.
I heard somebody recently call it leading up or had a term that said leading up and leading down. And I think that you and I would be a good example of how to explain that, where there, as you just said, I've had a lot more experience. I'm a lot older than you. I've had experiences in the world, but there's also things going on in your life that you teach me, and we, collaborate in that way. And it's when you are a leader, I think you give yourself, it's a disservice to yourself to think you have all the answers and to not look to others to help you grow. Because I really think, as far as leadership is concerned, you never really arrive to, I got it all now. Like, I am as best as I could possibly be at leadership that I will ever be, and there's nothing more you can learn. I just don't think you're ever going to get there, because there's always new experiences and differences, and as life moves on. So being open to other perspectives and ideas on how to grow is good. And I think that's at some point, if we ever talk about mentors, that is the great opportunity for a mentor to help you become a better leader in any age or atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. I think we covered some great points today, and hopefully we can I can take what I learned here and apply it to my upcoming ventures. Thank you guys for watching.
Good luck on your application, Zachary. See you next time.